My name is Lex, and this is Bronx. We bought and renovated this Airstream and this camper, this tiny home, then this Airstream, then another Airstream, and finally we designed and built this tiny home. And now I'm on a mission to learn about the best travel experiences across the world. Welcome to Experiential Travel. From owning his own furniture and design company in Savannah, Georgia, to now developing a property in Gatlinburg and in the process of developing another property in Lake Sinclair, Georgia, which I've never even heard of. The owner of VAYHAUS is today's guest on the podcast. I'm so excited to learn. I don't know this for sure, but I hope that his property is a ground up construction, because then I have unlimited amount of questions about design. I mean, from butterfly roof to massive windows. I mean, these windows are some of the biggest windows I've ever seen. To a bridge as a front door. You literally cross over a bridge to get to their front door. It's incredible. And I am so excited to introduce our new guest on today's episode of Experiential Travel Podcast, Mr. Mike Ayres.
Man, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. And yeah, man, I'm looking forward to sharing what we've done, and excited to talk about it. And yeah.
First, the name. How'd you get VAYHAUS?
We a lot of it's just searching to see what's available, right, as far as websites. And then it was, we knew the style of the product. We knew the style that we were going after, and really it's a style that we're attracted to. When I say we, my wife and I, and so we knew that was more of a modern aesthetic. And so we went with the VAYHAUS music movement, and we took part of that, and then vacation, and so we kind of merged the two, and we got VAYHAUS. So that's how that came about.
What got you into? I usually start all of these off with understanding the mindset of people that start in this space, in the experiential travel, hospitality, in the cabin, like short-term rental game isn't for everyone. How did you and your wife start this?
So this was something that we had talked about doing for a long time, probably 15, 16 years. And really it started off more as we wanted to design and develop boutique hotels. And we're still young, but we were even younger then. And as you can imagine, that's pretty expensive, and it just wasn't something that we could do. And so, we go through our career and have kids and all that, and keep talking, keep having these conversations. And we finally got to the point where we were, I don't know the right word, but maybe a little bit frustrated doing design work for others. And like I said, I don't know that that's the right word, but in the construction process, a lot of stuff gets VE'd, and all the cool little details you spend so much time on get removed from a project. And I think that really crushes a lot of products, really, not just architectural, but just in general. But so we really just got to the point where we wanted to do our own thing, and we kept talking about getting back into this, or kept having these conversations. So we were like, well, let's just give it a shot, and that's where the Gatlinburg property came from.
That's amazing. So you and your wife work together in the furniture design business?
Yeah, so my background is architecture. My wife's background is interior design, and through the years we owned a furniture manufacturing company in Savannah, Georgia, and we had interestingly enough, we started that in 2006. 2007, I think. It's when all the layoffs started happening in the financial world. And I remember sitting in our little warehouse and watching this unfold. And, we had just kind of started that venture. So we did that for 5 or 6 years, and then ended up in Tampa right after we sold part of that off and closed it down. But so we were in the furniture world for a while. We still kind of are. We both still work full time, I think that process helped expose us to a lot. We learned a lot, just in business in general, but certainly in the design world as well, because we were making the decisions, right? So there was no insulation between us and end users and developers, architectural firms and stuff like that, all of which is who we worked a lot with. And so it kind of exposed us a lot more quickly to the design world. So anyway, did furniture for a while, and then we kind of made our way to Tampa, which is where we live now, and then started this process. 2020 is when we purchased that piece of property up in Gatlinburg. So
I love the little bit that you said, because I feel like a lot of people, I know, at least for me, I struggle with that as well. The bit that you mentioned, how you would design something and then would have whatever you designed basically be rejected, and then you not be able to have your own say in a product that you create for yourself or create for others. So I come from the videography production, film production background. So creating a scope of work for a client, creating a script for a client, even creating the final product for a client, and then doing revisions. I like the collaborative aspect of it, but it's definitely hard when you're starting to create things that you are really passionate about, but then get shut down by a third party. And so I can only imagine the breath of fresh air it was to be able to design something architecturally, have your wife design it interior design-wise, and not have to then get it signed off or approved by anyone else because you own it and it's yours. What did that mean for you once you we're skipping ahead, but what did that mean for you and your wife to walk me through kind of the thoughts and feelings around being able to create something just for you guys and not have to get that then finally approved by a third party?
I mean, it's twofold, right? So it's, we've always said that design is a team sport. And so it can be dangerous, to be honest with you, because a client, puts some guardrails. And when you're your own client, there are no guardrails per se. There's nobody saying, well, maybe let's, which is a good and bad thing, right? And so that's really the challenge. The freedom that comes with that is pretty amazing. I'm one of those designers that I've got a pretty good idea what it's going to look like, and I create the renderings and all those kind of things. But as we go through the process, and it probably drives general contractors crazy, but as we go through that process and I'm more able to experience it, there's new things I want to try. And really, to be honest with you, for me, and I think my wife as well, is it's that the ability to be able to try things that most clients would be like, nah, I think that's too far outside the box, right? So but in our case, we can just do it anyway. And if it works, awesome. And if it doesn't, we don't have to talk about it. But, but yeah, man, it's kind of a cool feeling. Yeah, for sure.
You have been thinking about this you mentioned 15, 16 years. Was it always a thought process of creating a short-term rental, or was it a second home thought, or was it always just develop an asset that can produce income?
so it's a little bit of all of those. It's really not initially, even now, it was to create whatever, and the financial part is less of a driving force for us. Obviously a necessity, but less of a driving force for us than it is the ability for us to just create something. And so I think the real motivation and the real reason we did this was really just to create something, but we needed to also figure out how to not go bankrupt. And and I think that the short-term rental market helps us to do that, obviously, and so that certainly helps us to be able to continue what we like to do. We love the hospitality industry. Part of being a designer, I think in general, is just creating a space or a place that people want to be in, and so that's a fun. My favorite moment is the first 10 to 15 seconds when someone walks in to a place that we've spent so much time thinking about and working on, and their reaction. So that 10 to 15 minutes, if I could turn that into money or turn it into energy or whatever, it would be endless for me. That's the moment for me that makes me want to go do another one. So
it's the energy release that you feel when other people are enjoying something that you have spent so much time on. And I think that there's something so magical there, being able to hear or read a review or hear someone talk about something that you've spent so much time on. I think that's really beautiful. So you live in Tampa. What made you choose the market Gatlinburg?
Well, so we knew right out of the gate we needed something that would be pretty profitable pretty quick, and Gatlinburg, in our research, it was always kind of at the top of the list of the best place to invest and all of that. I think that's probably changed over the last couple of years just because that market's so saturated. But that's ultimately why we went to Gatlinburg. Started in Gatlinburg, so it was a lower barrier.
So it was strictly like just a numbers, like what? Let's find something.
Yeah, I mean the entry level there was significantly less than a beach house or whatever. It was a little bit more affordable right out of the gate, and it was a little bit easier of a risk for us. I mean, we got a lot of good baggage. We got 3 kids, and one of which is in college, and trying to handle all of that. Plus, she and I both work full time for another company still. We needed something that was going to be pretty close to a sure bet, and that was the spot that worked, that we thought would work for us, and it did. It's done very well. So
you choose Gatlinburg. Was the land that you found raw land? Was there a structure on there already? How did the land come into play?
So that one's pretty interesting. It's a little bit of a sad story, and maybe hopefully what we've created is a happy ending. But so my initial call to the realtor was on another piece of property, and just so happened a piece of property his parents owned that he was selling. And so as we're going through this process on our initial phone call, I was like, "Look, this is what we're trying to do," and he goes, "Well, I know of a better lot that's coming on the market. I'm getting ready to list it." And he goes, "That it's in a better location, and that's the one." And I'm thinking, if this guy's going to turn me away from a piece of property that his parents own, that they're trying to sell, and turn me on to another property, then this guy's, shooting me straight, right? And so he showed us the property. We did it from Tampa, and he FaceTimed us and showed us the property. Well, it was there was a structure on it and burnt down in the fires in 2016. So it was an existing lot, and had the driveway was still there. The septic tank was still there and was in good condition, and it was a retaining wall that was there, which is the same retaining wall you'll see in the pictures that has the plants on it. It's the same retaining wall. So that's all that was there.
He was right. It was a better find, because you have basically, were you able to buy that land with technically a home loan because there was a home on there, or was it considered raw land at that point?
It's a good question. One that we didn't have to answer. We ended up paying cash for the land. It was, I don't remember, I think it was around $60,000, which is a lot of money for sure. But we were in the position that we could just pay cash for it. But to answer your question, I don't think that you could get a home loan on that. Most banks are going to want to see an actual house there with a kitchen and bathrooms and all that kind of stuff. So I think if we were to finance it, it would have had to have been a lot loan for sure.
But $60K for a lot with a driveway, a retaining wall, a septic unit, water and power is actually one of the best deals I've heard. Most raw land is going for $60K, and that's no water, no power, no septic, nothing. And so the fact that you were able to get into that for $60K is a great find. And being able to pay in cash and having that built-in equity, were you able to, since you bought it in cash, use that payment as your down payment in your did you do a construction loan?
We did, yeah. And that's exactly what we did.
Were you able to use that land as the down payment for the construction loan?
Yeah, so we closed on the property, sight unseen other than a little FaceTime. This was right when COVID, right when everything shut down. And I got a little bit cold feet, right? So the day before we closed, that morning I go to Raquel, my wife, and I said, honey, I need to go check this out. Everybody's closed, right? Everything's closed. I was like, I got to go check this out before we close on it. And so me and my middle child, my oldest son, we jump in the truck, and I think it's an 11-hour drive one way. And my wife's like, everybody's freaking, kind of scared. We don't know what's going on. Nobody really knows what's going on. She's like, you don't stop. She made both of us snacks and food or whatever. And so he and I drove up there. The only place we stopped was gas stations for gas and to use the bathroom. We drove up there, went to the lot, went to, very top. I stood on the end of the retaining wall and looked out, took a couple pictures, and then we drove all the way back to Tampa. But anyway, we closed on it. We did the design work and developed the plans for it, and then we pulled that one I think we did a construction to perm loan, one of the one-time closed construction to perm loans, and they took the house as collateral.
You did a 22-hour drive with only stopping for gas, and at your property for, I'm guessing, an hour?
Maybe an hour, yeah.
Oh my God. I think that's one of the more impressive things I've heard. I know personally, 22 hours in a car, no shot.
It's, what was nice about it? There was no traffic. It was so quiet on the road. It was a little bit eerie, right? But very few tractor trailers, no other cars, nobody was going anywhere. And here we are, me and my son, bopping down the highway in the car for 22 hours to go check out a lot. So, yeah.
I love that. So you closed on the lot. how long from the time you closed to the time that you submitted plans? Like, how long did that architectural design process take for you guys?
So we closed on the land right at the end of March. We closed on the land, and then we started construction, I think, in October. So it took us, 6 months, I guess, 5-6 months. No, in that time, before I went and looked at the property, and I just saw FaceTime videos and had topo maps and elevation stuff, I had designed the house. And then when he and I went up there, threw everything out, and we started over, or I started over again. But in that time, we developed the plans. We engaged with the general contractor, went through that whole process, which is always fun, and then we went through permitting. So that was pretty quick, 6 months, I think, to go through all of that. Especially permitting sometimes can be fun and take quite a bit of time, but yeah.
That's awesome. That's 6 months is a really good time frame on that. And then the permitting process for ground up constructions, I'm guessing, is pretty straightforward. It's not a lot of hoops that you had to jump through.
In some places there can be. I know that in Tampa, I've worked on a couple projects that took us over a year to get permits for, or took general contractor over a year to get permits for. But in Tennessee and Gatlinburg, they've got a lot less requirements, so yeah, it's a much faster process there for sure.
Nice. So you start the ground up construction, the design aspect. What went into some of the bridge, for example, or the butterfly roof? Where did you get some of those ideas from?
So the bridge, I think, came about on that 22-hour drive, the 11 hours back. I do a lot of my thinking while I'm driving, and that was thinking about the process, really wanting to create something unique up there, and thinking, I was really thinking about being a kid, or just being a kid, and how cool it would be to cross a bridge to get into your house. And the better views were from higher up. And so I was like, well, and I was also kind of working around the footprint of the house that had been there. I knew that was a safe place for us to build. And so I was like, what if we push the house away from the retaining wall? We'll create this cool little courtyard, which no house in Gatlinburg or the surrounding areas has a courtyard. And then we'll have this cool bridge that would go across, and that'll be the entrance. And so when I didn't say anything to my wife, because sometimes, whatever, it's just better that I do a rendering for her, and I did the rendering, and she's like, that's pretty cool. So that's how we ended up. The roof line was really just to create something different. We knew that the big views were out towards the national forest, and we wanted to capture that. And I love natural daylight. Actually, our house in Tampa we designed in 2016, and it's, you don't have to have the lights on during the day. There's so much natural daylight, and so that's just always what we've done. And so we have these huge tall windows, and I was like, I got to find the tallest window I can, and that I can find within not a crazy budget, mm-hmm. right? Budget number. And so I ran across a company that was nice enough to make us some big, tall windows, and it's pretty cool walk into that house and instantly be greeted by 20-mile views of the Smoky Mountains. So
yeah, that's amazing. So your property gets built, you're up and running. The first thing would be to get it on booking channels. What booking channels are you on currently? I know that you have you just started a direct booking channel, which is awesome. What are you on currently, and then what is most of your bookings are coming from right now?
Yeah, so we're on, right now we're only on Airbnb and VRBO. There's a couple specialty sites that we're on. Don't remember them off the top of my head, and I probably should. We've gotten no bookings from there, so that's probably why I don't remember. But Airbnb is by far the biggest draw at this point. I do notice a difference between Airbnb and VRBO. VRBO tends to be a little bit of a longer stay than Airbnb, but I would say probably 85% comes from Airbnb.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And then what's your guys' occupancy rate?
We're in the 70 to 72%.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then what's your average nightly rate?
We average with the cleaning fee like $5.25, $5.25 or so.
Nice. Which brings us to our next thing is cleaning. I call them Dream Team because I think it's like the lifeblood behind the organization, right? It's the people that handle your daily tasks. Who consists of your Dream Team? Cleaners, handyman, on-site property manager if you have one. Who's your Dream Team? And then more importantly, how did you find them? And what would you recommend for, we'll just start with how did you find them?
Yeah, so ours is, and I learned this very quickly, our cleaners are by far the most important people we have, and I say that because out of the gate we had the wrong cleaners, and I don't know that I initially didn't value them, because I did value them, but after my experience with our first cleaners, it was a pretty short experience, about a month and a half. I realized that the most important part are the cleaners. So the initial one, I think the initial cleaner, right out of the gate, we engaged with a second, and I'm not going to name them, but a group, a property management group. And they do all of they essentially, you basically hand the house over and they do the whole thing, right? They handle the bookings all the way through the cleaning and maintenance and everything. And they were like, look, reach out to this person and set up an account, and then we'll just link our calendars together and whatever, and it'll just work. And so I reached out to the lady and had a few conversations, and everything, you checked the box, and it was good. And we ended up not moving forward with the other company, basically because we listed the house, and we were getting bookings like crazy just right out of the gate, and so I was like, well, I can manage this, right? I can figure it out. Maybe she had too many properties or what, or I'm not sure, but we were having guests show up to a dirty house that hadn't been cleaned. And so that's how we found the first one, and then really through Google and just doing searches for cleaners, we found a great one. We've been with them for over 2 years. They make us successful, and it's easy to get a booking. It's hard to keep people's expectations, especially when it's a house, especially when their expectations are set based on the pictures they're seeing. And the reality is when you go to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, 999 times out of 1,000, you're probably staying in a log cabin. And there's this one, I think there's quite a few now, but then there was us, and we sit on top of this hill, and you look down, and there's nothing but log cabins, and we're this black butterfly roof house sitting on top of the mountain, and we stick out like a sore thumb, and expectations go along with that. And so finding someone that buys into that was the challenge, and we found somebody, and they're great. So they're not perfect, but nobody is, and I don't expect that from them, but everything's automated. We get a booking, it goes straight to their calendar. We get a confirmation, hey, we received your booking, you're all set, you're on our calendar. They show up when guests check out, and it's great. So,
what property management software do you guys use to communicate with them?
So we use
Guesty for hosts, Lodgify.
So we use Guesty for hosts, but they use Resort Cleaning. Yeah, Resort Cleaning. So, or Cleaners or something like that. So it's all connected. However it works. Yeah. I did it 3 years ago, and I've forgotten how to do it. So I got to
haven't messed with it since.
That's right. Yeah, it worked. So I was like, okay.
Don't break it if it's not broken, right?
That's
something
right.
like that.
That's right.
Going back to the cleaner story, I couldn't agree more. I was talking to another host who has a property in Texas, and we were talking about this. You don't understand the value of a good cleaner, or what even is a good cleaner, until you have a good cleaner. And that stuck with me, because we've had cleaners in the past that have been good, and we've had cleaners in the past that have not been good. And knowing the difference, I was only able to know the difference by seeing the dichotomy of them, because a lot of people start off with a cleaner who may not be good, but then they never change. So that's all they know. And then it has, I tell our cleaners this, and I think it's so important. The initial wow factor is 90% of the game. The initial not even 5 minutes, I would say the initial 90 seconds is 90% of the game. When you walk into the property, see it, and it's oh my goodness, this is great. If you can elevate that 90 seconds, just from smell to touch to what they see right when they walk in, 90% of your job is done. People complain a lot less if they have that elevated 90 seconds than a really poor 90 seconds. And so we harp on that to our cleaners, is like, look, let's get the first, you walk into the front door, let's get that hook in place. And I think that's been the biggest thing that we've we've started implementing is honing in on that first 90 seconds and what that 90 seconds looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more, and I think that's actually a really good way to approach it. And I think you and I kind of, I touched on it earlier, that first 10 to 15 seconds when people walk into the house and their reaction, and that's what we're going for. But I think you're right. I think it's probably the first 90 seconds. Let them get in the house and the touch and the feel and all, because a lot of it is all of the secondary. Maybe they're not secondary senses, but your visual and the way that things smell and touch or feel, and all, it's, if you can nail that, then you're right. I think dealing with issues down the road,
I think it even
greatly reduce.
Stems earlier than that for us, at least. We have a 5-minute drive on a dirt road, and that dirt road is atrocious. It's like I need to fix it, but it's going to be like a fortune to fix it. So I'm in the process. But in the winter, and it snows and it's really muddy, it's like terrible. And so in the summer, it's drivable. In the winter, it's just terrible. And so what we have to do is basically prep them for that first drive, because that 90 seconds doesn't start when they open the door. It actually starts when they turn onto the street. And so there's a level of fair warning guess and making the road sounds a lot worse than what it is, so that they're like, oh yeah, that wasn't that bad. and then they walk into the home and be like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. So if we can like almost prep that experience until obviously we fix the roads, but we found that experience stems before even you open the front door. It's like that driveway in, it's how you can look at the property as you drive in. For you, does that play into it? Because I know for us, it's the road. Is there anything else like that for you guys that plays into that 90 seconds, but even before they open the door?
Yeah, look, I mean, we've got a very similar situation with Gatlinburg specifically. The driveway up to that house, I think, is 17 or 18% grade. It's like this. And the first time that I drove up it, it was nerve-wracking. Now, at this point, I've backed trailers up it and all kinds of other things, but I know that there's a lot of our guests that have never been down there, so we actually do the same thing. And it's in the listing. Hey, we got a steep driveway. The night before they arrive, I send them all their information. I'm like, remember, it's a steep driveway, and I'm like, it can be intimidating your first trip up, but it's easier after that, right? And so. Yeah, I agree. I think if you can set those expectations of things that may possibly be a challenge, like a long dirt road or a steep driveway, and prep them for that a lot of times it becomes a non-issue, and
exactly,
you can capture that.
Exactly.
Capture that moment.
We to go off of what you just said, we had, and that was something I think I struggled with, and a lot of our listeners are entrepreneurs that want to do this, and I think the biggest takeaway for me was I shied away from it. All the flaws, right, all the blemishes in our property, we shied away and tried not bringing to light so people didn't focus on it. And I was like, yeah, if we just don't mention it, if we don't talk about it, maybe they won't even realize that it's there, right? And we did that for a little bit. And I don't know what shifted, but I basically 180'd it. And I said, we're going to call out everything that's wrong with the property in the listing and in the messages, and almost reinforce the negatives for some reason. And then basically under promise and over deliver. And what we were doing is not promising and over-delivering instead of actually under-promising. And so I think that we were trying to be in the middle, and it was actually more successful under-promising and then over-delivering, like almost downplaying the experience in order to have an elevated experience.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I think, you can kill yourself trying to resolve all of the issues with a certain piece of property or stuff that probably isn't even in your control, and you just gotta you have those conversations up front. Hey, look, if you don't have a problem with this, because this is we're on top of the mountain. We're not moving this. We're not moving the house. So if this is a problem, we want you to know about it now.
And most people are booking your home because it's on a hill and because you have the views that you have. And so at the same time, in order to get on top of the hill, you have to drive up the hill. So
yeah. So, but yeah, look, I think we do the same thing. It's just you call those things out, and once you call them out, they're a non-issue because everybody knows about it, and you go on. So.
Yeah, which brings us, no pun intended, but our next section would be the hills we die on. And it's honestly my favorite section, or one of my favorite sections. And it's the things that we, like you, I've designed our own tiny home, right? And we rent out our own tiny home. Now it's on wheels. We use the same standing seam metal, though, the same black standing seam metal. And so when I saw your home, I was like, yeah, because we have the same design taste. And I call it because the hill we die on, because it's basically the things and the way we designed the home that makes it unique, that it was purposely designed for. I'll give an example. Our first tiny home, we don't put curtains in the loft because we want people to wake up with the sun, and we get the message all the time, can we please put curtains in the loft? And every single time we say no. We have to call it out in our listing. We just simply don't do it because we don't want to, and it's a hill that we will die on because we will not change our design for anyone because we designed it the way we wanted to design it. Are there any hills that you guys die on as part of your property?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say curtains. I hate curtains. We don't have them in our house, and I wake up with the sun every morning, and I love it. My wife is like, she has one of those eye Band-Aids or whatever they're called, so she can sleep later. But that's one of my things. I do. We do put them in the bedrooms where we have floor-to-ceiling windows, but I won't put them on in the living room. So that's a good one. I mean, we're on board with that one 100%, and we support you not putting curtains on here.
Well, thank you. I feel supported, and I like the fact that I'm not the only host that feels that way about life.
Yeah. And for us, it's really is. My wife's an interior designer, and we've been in enough short-term rentals that sometimes we feel like we're walking into a house that has used furniture, old furniture, and I don't mean like a couple years old. I mean like generations old, and so. All of our places get new furniture, and that's our thing. And we have not guests, because I think guests enjoy that, but we have people that look at our books and they're like, "Hey, maybe you should cut back on that furniture budget a little bit." And we're like, no, it's okay.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, and I guess that comes from maybe designing and building furniture for a long time and being in that world and just knowing that we're not doing that. So,
well, here's a question. Okay, so I'm not sure if you can see behind me. There's a bunch of like hats. I started watching Yellowstone during COVID, and I was like, or no, not Yellowstone. I saw TikTok during COVID. And it was this girl making a hat, and I was like, I could do that. So my COVID hobby was starting to make cowboy hats, and I just do it for fun. It's a fun artistic thing I get to do with my hands and get my mind off of things. I get to sew, I get to just mold hats. It's fun. And I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, I could probably, I've had people reach out to me on Instagram wanting to buy them. So I was like, oh, that could be fun if I sold them at the home. And so I use our homes and all of our 7 units as kind of brick and mortar stores for the hats. And so we say yeah, you could try one on. If you want to buy it, here's a link to buy one. Go ahead. If you just Zelle or Venmo, go ahead, take the hat home with you. And we get a lot of purchases. And so I was wondering if you do that with any of your guys' furniture, and you're being a furniture background and creating custom furniture. Do you guys have or use your home as any type of promotion for your other business?
We don't. We've had a few people ask us, where we got a certain piece of a coffee table or whatever, and we'll kind of point them in the right direction. It is something that we've talked about doing, but we're just, to be honest, man, we're just so busy with 3 kids and holding down, both of us having full-time jobs and trying to design and develop our own stuff, and we've got 2 other projects in the works, and so we're just, if we could find someone to bring in to kind of create that and put that program together for us, then we would absolutely love to do something like that. We just haven't, we don't have time.
Yeah, I understand. So that segues really well. You have 2 other projects going on. I'd love to talk about the Lake Sinclair project. I saw the renderings on your website. I mean, stunning.
Yeah,
Tell me a little bit about that project.
Yeah, so that one's on Lake Sinclair. It's about an hour and a half south of Atlanta, and it's a piece of property that we bought. I think we were just about finished with Gatlinburg. No, we had just started Gatlinburg. Yeah, it would have been January, 3 months after we started construction on Gatlinburg. So we bought that property, and then we sat on it until we finished Gatlinburg. And I worked on that house plan for 2 years. And I know how simple it looks, but those doors, there's 2 doors. They're 10 feet tall, and they're 32 feet wide, and they both open up completely. And the challenge for me is when you drive up to the house, it's kind of like a pie-shaped lot, but with a popsicle stick on the end, and that popsicle stick is the driveway. So it's like almost 900 foot long straight run, and then it bends at the end. So what I wanted to do is capture the view of the lake when you came around that bend. And so those doors are, you look, when you come around that bend, you look straight through those doors to the lake. But it's pretty cool. So it's just about done. We have stayed there. We stayed there over Thanksgiving, doing all the furniture and everything. I was back up there last week, finishing up a few things, and we'll probably launch that in the next few days if we've got enough decent pictures until we get some real pictures taken. But that is a super cool place. It's just, we'll have to get you out here so you guys can spend some time in that house and open those doors up. We got 300 feet on the lake. We have about a mile view across the lake to the other shore. Swimming pool, hot tub, outdoor kitchen. Like it's pretty awesome.
The whole 9 yards. I love that. Overboard. We are actually doing the phase 2 of this podcast. As much as I love being at my own place to record these, phase 2 is to do tours. And I'm going to do basically go out, film the property in addition to a sit-down interview, hour-long sit-down interview, just like what we're doing right now. But I haven't told this on podcast. I have a big issue with using other people's content as my own. So like a lot of people ask me like, why don't you throw photos of the property that you're talking about on your videos? And for some reason, as a creative myself, it wrenches my heart. It's like gut wrenching to like put other people's stuff. Not because it isn't amazing. It's just like, I feel like then I have to credit them all. It's just, I'm going on a tangent. Right. But basically, phase 2 of this is to do a tour. So I'd love to come out and do another sit down with you and your wife and chat about the second project and to do a full tour of that property. That would be great. Now, you said that there was another project besides Lake Sinclair. What's the other one?
So the other one is in Ellijay, Georgia, which is about an hour and a half north of Atlanta. And we've been looking for property there for a while. And it's at the foothills of the Smoky Mountains, and or Blue Ridge Mountains, I should say. And it's 60 acres. And we're building 12... I call them cabins, but there's very little wood on them. They're more of a glass pavilion. So there's 12 of them on there, and it's a pretty cool project. I was up there over the weekend, and we've spent the last 6 or 7 months doing the development. We cut a little road in. We used some existing paths that were there, and this is just raw woods, right? What's cool about it is the owners that, I'm sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but the owners that bought, or the owners that we purchased from, it was 2 guys, and they bought it in the 80s. and they never did anything with it. They actually, I think, lived up in Connecticut or something. So they bought it for investment purposes, and then they passed away, and they left this property to their kids, and their kids didn't want it, never sat foot on it. But these guys had given the neighbors, allowed the neighbors to use it, to make trails or whatever. So for the last 30-something years, 40 years, they've been riding their four-wheelers or walking through there. And so there's these trails all throughout there, and they've already scoped out all the great spots, right? So we didn't have to do much work. So anyway, we took this 60 acres. Of the 60 acres, we've only touched, or we're only going to disturb 3.5 to 3.75 acres of the 60 acres. So from a sustainability standpoint, that's another big thing that is kind of a driving force for us. And we're fully aware that what we do is not sustainable with just construction in general. But anyway, so it's cool. So we've spent the last I don't know, 5 months or so. We've cut the road in and gravelled it. We've cleared 9 of the 12 pads. Septic tanks are in. We're trying to figure out how to deal with power. We'll probably, I hope that we can find an off-grid type solution for them. But it's a budgetary thing, and I hate that. But I'm trying to figure out a solution. That's actually something I've been working on the last couple of weeks. But ultimately, we'd love for it to be completely off-grid, and that's what I'm shooting for. But anyway, we've poured 6 of the 12 foundations. They've probably poured a couple more since I was up there this weekend, and they've framed 2 of the cabins. So we're hoping early April be done with that.
I love that. Well, we all of our homes are off-grid, and we have a great solar package. So if you are interested, I could refer you to some great solar products that we use. We have a 15 kilowatt battery system in our tiny home with 9 550 watt panels. And it just crushes. We've never dealt with any power issues. We have an AC going, we have heat going. So I could refer that to you later. But that's so exciting, man. It's incredible to hear a success story like yours, and then because I talk about this a bunch, but this short-term rental journey is like a snowball. And depending how that first property goes, that snowball continues. But if you don't succeed on that first one, it's so tough to get that ball keep on going, just from a morale standpoint. And I'm so thankful that our first Airstream in Arizona went well, because if not, I would not be doing what I am doing now, I can tell you that. So from someone who understands how hard it is to scale, I commend you, and I am so impressed with your guys' ability to keep on going and push through this. And I'm so excited to see what the future holds for you guys. With that being said, our last little section that we talk about is, I call it experiential travel, because I do think what we're offering isn't just a place to stay for the night. It's not a hotel. It's an experience. I say it's in order to disconnect, in order to reconnect. It's a place to really spend time in nature, spend time with loved ones, and get away from kind of the craziness of our world right now. As the world gets crazier, I think that more and more people need nature in order to survive. And I will die on the hill saying that people need nature to survive, and that more people, to be happier, need more experiences like the ones that we're trying to offer. Is there a story that resonates with you about that, about kind of people experiencing your property and solidifying your why, looking back and saying, yes, that is the reason why we built what we built?
Yeah, I think our our reasoning for doing this runs parallel to y'all's. It was, and I think I mentioned this before. It was never part of it has to be about the money, because you have to be able to continue doing these things. But the bigger part of this for us was just creating a place for people to stop and reconnect with people that are important to them, and be in nature, and do all of those, and be outside, and get away from video games and the internet. As great as it is, the negatives can be just as challenging, and so I think for me, the thing that, and I can speak for my wife too, and I'm sorry she's not here. She's at a interior design thing, but is really hearing the stories about people reconnecting with their family. And it's not that the relationship could have been bad. It's just that, maybe they live under the same roof with these people, and with our, everybody's lives are crazy right now, and just be able to get away from their house. And look, we've got people that come to our house from Knoxville, which is like an hour away from Gatlinburg, just to disconnect. And I think it's just changing your environment and being able to do it in a place that is unique, and there's a lot of thought put into it. And I think whether they consciously or subconsciously pick up on that, I think that's ultimately the challenge. That's the driving force for us, is really just family and friends. I mean, we love our family, and we love hanging out with our friends, and I do a weekend every year with all my college buddies, and we all act like idiots, and I think being able to reconnect is what you should do. So I mean, it motivates you to get back to that spot, right? And hopefully most people are doing what they love to do, but that's ultimately why we do what we're doing. Plus, I can't tell you how much I love the design and construction aspect of this. As much as many challenges as they are in that process, that's my spot. Like, if I'm on a job site and people are asking questions and I'm able to solve problems, I'm having a great day. So anyway, that's my deal, man.
I love that, man. I couldn't have said that better. I mean, it's so true, right? It's so, I don't know. I am so, I've always thought about like the mission of what I look back on my life, and I'm 80, 90 years old, and what I've accomplished in my life. And obviously that's numerous years from now, but I look back and I say, what impact did I have? And I think that if I can hold my hat on that, I've created experiences to allow people to have that emotional connection with their loved ones, then I think that all have had lived a good life. So
yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think those are the stories, right, that probably drive you. I know that certainly drive me from guests. Is we got one that kind of always kind of stuck with me, but it was this guy that he's probably my age, and just with his, went on vacation with his dad, and they stayed in the house, and they're like, we loved it, and we didn't even leave the house. We stayed in the courtyard and watched TV and had the campfire going, and the kids were playing, and his dad turned to him and said, we're going to do this every year, and that ultimately is what we're looking for. So
that's it, man. I love that. Yeah. I love that. Well, thanks so much, man, for being on the podcast today. And it was great to pick your mind or brain about your property. And we'd love to come and we'll talk about getting over and shooting your next one.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do a twofer. We'll do the lake, and then we'll take you up to LOJ and spend a couple of days up there.